Good afternoon, everybody. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have, in the last few days, we started with the concept of what is a field. And then we talked about the field due to a single point charge. Then we talked about a field due to a dipole. And from there, we moved to continuous charge distributions, where we talked about the field due to a line charge distribution. Then the field due to a ring of charge, a disk of charge. Okay, so now I just want to know whether you people have really understood what we have done till now. So I've just put a numerical for you to solve. Let's try solving this. Please check out your papers and pens and do this. Solve this. 2 point charges Q1 equal to plus 2 nanocoulomb, Q2 equal to minus 4 nanocoulomb are kept fixed at x equal to 0 and x equal to 4 meters. So how do I draw a figure? Just explain, how do I draw a figure? First I put both my charges Q1, then I put my charge Q2 and I am putting it along a straight line. Along a straight line. Then, and let's say this is my x-axis. So this is at x equal to, so let me call this as my x-axis. So this is going to be at x equal to 0 and Q2 is at x equal to 4 meters. Okay. You must find out what is the electric field because of both these charges, at a point x equal to 10 meters. What is the field? This is what you're expected to find out. So how do you go about doing this problem? Please answer. How should you do the problem? Quick. Electric field at the point P. How do I get? What will be the field at this point? Because of Q1 and Q2. How do I do that? Tell me. Are you able to see the board? Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me, how do I get the field at the point P?
Vector sum of.
Right, but before that, you have to use the word, you have to use a principle. What is this principle? Principle of?
Superposition.
Yeah, you have to use the principle of superposition. And according to the superposition principle, the electric field at the point P is going to be the vector sum of the field due to the first charge plus the electric field because of the second charge, the vector sum of these two. Okay, now draw arrows and tell me how will vector E1 look at the point P?
Radially out.
Radially out. Very good. Radially out. I can see that this one girl is really under pressure because she has to answer and all others are keeping quiet. Please don't do this to her. Okay, so this is E1. Okay. What about E2? Remember, this is a negative charge. This is a positive charge. So because of the positive charge, radially out. What about the negative charge?
Radially inward.
Radially inward. Radially inward. So this is my E2. So now let me take this direction as positive and the opposite as negative. So what do I write here? I have to write 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. For a point charge, what is the expression? It is Q1 divided by R1 square. Okay, and for the other one, what will it be? This is going to be plus because it's along the positive x direction. E2 is going to be along the negative x-axis direction, so minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q2 divided by R2 square. Okay, now let's just put it. So 9 into 10 to the power of 9, that is common, take it out. So what is my Q1? Q1 is 2 nano. So 2 into 10 to the power of minus 9 divided by, what is R1? What is R1?
10.
Yeah, R1 is from Q1 to the point P. Therefore, it is 10. So 10 square. Then the second charge is Q2. So what do I write for Q2?
4 into 10 power minus.
Right. Never put minus 4. It is just 4 into. So 4 into 10 to the power of minus 9 divided by, what is this distance? It is x is equal to 4 to x is equal to 10. So that is 6 centimeters square. Okay. So you can simply do this. Okay. So I just tried working it out and I got the answer as 328 divided by 400 Newton per Coulomb with a minus sign. Am I going to get a minus sign or a plus sign? There will be a minus sign. So that means the field direction, the electric field direction is going to be along the, so this will be the direction of the electric field. So this is how you apply the principle of superposition. Okay, now from here, let us come back to continuous charge distribution. Now we are going to talk about another charge distribution. So this is a spherical charge distribution and we are talking about a spherical shell. So when I'm talking about a spherical shell, I'm talking about an object which is having a thin wall. It's having a thin wall, empty inside, radius is capital R, and it is having a uniform surface charge distribution. A uniform surface charge distribution. And you're supposed to find out what is the electric field at a distance R. At a distance R. Okay? So you have to do it for R less than capital R and for R greater than or equal to capital R. That is, you have to take a point P inside this shell and find out what is the electric field. Similarly, take a point P outside the shell and find out what is the electric field. Okay, so what do I have to do here? I have to use the shell theorem. So what did shell theorem tell you? Somebody please answer. What does shell theorem 1 tell you? Manav, what does shell theorem 1 say? Manav is here? Akshara?
The force exerted by a spherical shell with uniform charge distribution inside the shell, the force exerted by on a charge inside the shell would be 0
Yes.
for a uniformly charged.
And you know that F is equal to Q naught into E. So F is equal to 0 for R less than capital R. That is if your point is inside. And similarly, F will be equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q naught by R square for R greater than or equal to R. So these were the two shell theorems. So let's apply the first shell theorem. So if I am taking a point here, I know that the force on a charge that I place at point P will be 0. The force that I place on a charge will be 0. Therefore, the electric field there will be 0. Similarly, if I take a point P outside, then what happens? This point P will be able to see this entire spherical charge distribution as, will it be able to, will this point P outside see this as a spherical charge? It will see it as a point charge. This point P here, which is outside the sphere, will not see this sphere. It will not see it as a sphere. It will see this entire sphere as a point charge located at the center of the sphere. Located at the center of the sphere. Okay. So it's as if, there is a charge capital Q and what is the field at point P because of Q. That is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. So this is the value of the electric field for R greater than or equal to capital R. And you can see that because we have assumed that the charge is positive, the electric field is radially out. Okay. Now the next thing is, how do you plot it? How do you plot it? Electric field versus small r. Versus small r. Small r is the distance from the center of the shell. So what happens? You're finding that the electric field is zero everywhere inside. Everywhere inside the electric field is zero. So that's what you're marking. Till you reach the surface. After you reach the surface, abruptly the electric field goes up. At this point, it is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, capital Q by capital R square. And after that, it falls off as 1 by R square. So this kind of a graphical interpretation you should be comfortable with. Okay, now let's go to so until now we were talking about a shell. Now let us talk about a sphere. Let us now talk about a sphere. A sphere which is solid and which is having a uniform volume charge distribution. Whereas when we talked about a shell, we said the charge is on the surface. It's a surface. Whereas here it is volume. All over the volume there is a uniform charge distribution. So what is the first thing you have to do? You have to again find out what is the electric field at 2 points P inside the sphere and for a P outside the sphere. Okay, so first thing is you have to first of all write the charge distribution, the volume charge distribution. Volume charge distribution rho is total charge divided by the volume of the sphere. Volume of the sphere is 4 by 3 pi capital R cube. Now we apply the shell theorem. Just as we did previously. So the electric field for R less than capital R. So that means if you're talking about a point here, then what happens is you have to imagine a sphere of radius small r and consider all the charge lying within this particular sphere. Consider all the charge lying within that sphere. Okay, if the charge lying within that sphere is q prime, then you can show that q prime is going to be equal to q into 4 by 3 pi capital, small r cube divided by 4 by 3 pi capital R cube. Or in other words, you can write it as rho into 4 by 3 pi small r cube. So that is the charge inside this sphere. So your point P will only sense this charge. It will only sense this charge. So the electric field will be because of only the charge inside this dotted line. So let's put that here. So it is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Instead of q prime, I write rho into 4 pi small r cube by 3 divided by r squared. So this is what is going to be the answer. And you're finding that the electric field is directly proportional to small r. That is, everywhere inside the sphere, as you move away from the center, electric field is going to increase as a function of small r. This is till you reach this surface, Once you are outside, to a point P outside, this entire sphere will look like a point charge. Entire sphere will look like a point charge carrying a charge capital Q. Therefore, electric field will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by small r square. Okay? Or you're finding that electric field is proportional to 1 by r square. So let's plot it. You can see that E equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q small r by r cube. So when small r equal to 0, electric field is 0. That means at the center, electric field is 0. After that, it grows as 1 by r. It's proportional to 1 by, it's proportional to r. It is proportional to r. That's why it's passing through the origin. And once you reach here, outside the shell, that is for small r greater than or equal to capital R, it is proportional to 1 by r squared. Okay, now let's just try this problem. If you have understood what I have said, you should be able to get this problem. Find the electric field at radial distance 0.5 meter, 1 meter and 1.5 meter from the center of a uniformly charged uniformly charged sphere of radius r equal to 1 meter carrying a total charge q equal to 30 nanocoulomb. So the total charge in the sphere is 30 nanocoulomb. First you have to find out what is the electric field at r equal to 0.5 meter. So where is 0.5 meter? Is it inside or outside? Small r equal to 0.5 meters.
Inside.
It is inside. Okay, so let me use another color. So it is inside. So this is my small r. So what does this mean? This means that your point P, if I put a point P here, point P will be able to sense only the charge lying inside this red dotted lines. And let the charge be some q prime. Okay, so now write the equation for electric field. Electric field will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Then what do I write? Q prime divided by r squared. Now what is q prime? What is q prime? Just now I showed you. Q prime will be q by 4 by 3 pi r cube into 4 by 3 pi small r cube. Okay, and then of course you have your small r square. Okay, or this becomes 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, then capital Q r by 4 by 3 pi capital R cube. Okay, so this is what is going to be the answer. Substitute. So 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into what is capital Q?
30.
No, so 10 to the power of minus 9 into what is smaller?
0.5.
0.5 divided by, then 4 pi epsilon naught and 1 by 4 pi it's taken care of, and then you have 4 by 3 pi. What is capital R? Capital R is 1 meter. That's it. Okay, so if you do this calculation, let me see what I've got. I have got 135 Newton per Coulomb. And what is the direction? The direction will be radially out. Okay. Next, can you do it for capital R, small r equal to capital R? So how do you do that? Electric field will be, that means you're talking about a point here. Okay, so this point P will see the entire charge capital Q, the entire charge enclosed capital Q, and you will find that the electric field is radially out. Okay, so it will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, then capital Q divided by, what do I write here? Denominator.
Capital R square.
Capital R square. That's it. Very good. So 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into 30 into 10 to the power of minus 9 divided by 1. So what does it become? 270 Newton per Coulomb radially out. Now, similarly, if I want to do for a point outside, then what do I do? For a point outside. So what will be the electric field for that? Electric field will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught capital Q divided by small r square. That is 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into 30 into 10 to the power of 30 into 10 to the power of minus 9 divided by 1.5 square. Okay, so I just worked it out for you. It is 120 Newton per Coulomb out, radially out. So I hope you understood how to use the shell theorem. Okay, using shell theorem, you can find out the electric field for any spherical charge distribution, be it shell or be it a hard sphere, volume charge distribution. Okay, so now So we have till now seen that electric field is simply a concept that man introduced so that he can understand action at a distance. Okay, so now the thing is, if man has done it, man doesn't like to do anything that is very abstract, very abstract. As much as possible, he would like to present things in a visible fashion, in a visible fashion. So the best visible thing would be a graphical representation of electric field. And please remember, electric field is a vector. So electric field is having a magnitude, electric field is having a direction. So how do you actually draw pictures so that by looking at the picture, a person should be able to say what is the direction of the electric field and what is the value of the electric field. A person should be able to get. So this representation in the form of lines is called field line representation or force line representation. So what are these field lines? As I myself said, it is imaginary. It is not real. Okay. Field lines are imaginary lines originating, or this is very important. These are imaginary lines which originate on a positive charge and terminate on a negative charge. They will not stop somewhere in space. If I have a positive charge, you've seen how the field lines, the electric field line is like this means where is it starting from? It is starting from the positive charge. Similarly, if I have a negative point charge, the field lines will be coming in, ending there. That's why it's a radially end. It will end there. It will not stop somewhere in air. Then, how do I talk about the direction? The tangent to the field line at any point gives the direction of the field at that point. Like for example, if this is how my field line is going to look, and if I take a point here and I want to know what is the direction of the field, all I have to do is I have to draw a tangent at that point. So this tangent direction gives me the direction of the electric field at that point. Next, the magnitude of the field at a location is proportional to the number of field lines cutting through a unit cross-sectional area perpendicular to the line. Like for example, if I am having field lines which are going to go like this. Field lines which are going to go like this. And if I want to find out what is the field at some location, I have to draw a cross-sectional area and measure how many field lines are going to cut through that. So if there are two field lines cutting through that area, then I know that my electric field is proportional to that number of lines cutting. If I draw a similar area here, if I draw a similar area, I find that three lines are cutting. So the field here is actually greater than the field here. If I draw a similar line here, area here, I find that only one line is cutting. So I know that the field at point 1 is greater than field at point 2 greater than field at point 3. So just by counting the number of lines cutting through a perpendicular cross-sectional area, I can find out what is the field strength. So which also means that if the lines are close by, then the field intensity or magnitude is large there. If the field lines are going to diverge out, then at such points, the electric field intensity or magnitude is small. Then, let us say I have a charge plus 5 nanocoulomb. I have another charge plus 10 nanocoulomb. If I am drawing field lines around them, I have to draw proportional lines proportional to the magnitude of the source charge. Like for example, if I am going to draw 5 lines out of this radially out from here, then here how many lines should I draw for the 10 nanocoulombs? For 10 nanocoulombs, how many should I draw? Looks like all of you have left.
10.
10. So I should draw 10 lines. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 lines I have to draw. Okay, and if it is negative, these 10 will be converging into, pointing into the point charge. Okay, then next, parallel field lines. Parallel field lines represent uniform field. That's logic. Here you see the lines are not parallel, and wherever the lines are far away from each other, there the field is less. Where the lines are clustered together, the field is more. That's what we have seen. So by that same logic, if I have field lines which are parallel and equispaced, then I know that the field at this point is the same as the field at this end. It's uniform field. Okay. Next, very important thing. Field lines will not intersect. If I draw field lines like this and then draw field lines like this is wrong. Field lines will not intersect. They don't intersect because at every point of a field line, if I draw a tangent, that tangent gives the direction of the field. So look at this. If there is an intersection, if two lines are crossing, what is a tangent? Tangent you can draw there. You can't draw a tangent there. Does it mean that there is field with two directions? No. So field lines cannot cross each other's path. They can come close to each other, but they don't cut each other. Next thing. Curving field lines imply variation in direction and magnitude. Not difficult to understand. See here, you see, these are curving field lines. So if I draw a tangent here, if I draw a tangent here, if I draw a tangent here, I know that the direction of the tangents is changing. And similarly, curving lines also means that the distance between the lines will be changing. So you're not having uniform field, you're having field which is not uniform and which is also changing direction. Okay, whereas when you're talking about this uniform field, these parallel lines means the value is the same and the direction is also the same. Okay, so these are some points that you have to remember whenever you are using field line distribution. Okay. So here, as an example, we have shown some figure. Okay, so here you see. So what is this first figure telling you? A. What kind of a field distribution is this? What do you see here?
Uniform.
Uniform field. Parallel. Yeah. And then the next one. Next one, field lines are diverging out. So therefore it is at P1, the field will be larger. And as you go towards P2, the field will be smaller because the lines are moving away from each other. The density of the lines is changing. Okay. And it's a varying field. It's varying direction and varying magnitude. Now let's come to the third picture. What is this? Anyone? Here you are drawing the electric field lines for a point charge which is positive. A point charge which is positive. Please remember when I say point charge, it can even be a point charge, it can be a shell, or it can be a sphere, uniformly charged sphere. All of them will behave like point charge only. So look at the electric field lines. The electric field line is everywhere radially out. Straight lines. And you see here, where do you think, I will show you 2 points and you have to tell me where the electric field will be larger. Will the electric field will be larger at point 1 or at point 2? Where will the electric field be larger?
Why?
Because there you're seeing that the lines are close to each other. At 2, you're finding that the lines are farther away from each other. Now let's come to the next picture here. So what you have here is a uniform sheet. It's not a line, okay? It's a uniform sheet. So it's a sheet. You're able to see only the side of the sheet. So you're seeing it as a line. Okay, and it's positive, uniform. So what is happening? We have seen in the last class, the electric field will be out of the positive plate, and for points close to the plate, it will be uniform. So you're drawing on one side, uniform field lines. What about the other side? On the other side also you will have, similarly, from the positive plate, uniform. So you are finding set of parallel lines going out of the source charge. Okay, now here you have another picture. So there is a positive charge and a negative charge. So what is this? A positive and a negative charge, equal and opposite. So what is this? This is called an electric dipole. Yeah. So for a dipole, if you see how the field lines are, you see, where are you finding that the field lines are close to each other? You're around the charge, you're finding the field lines are close. Similarly, you're finding that the field lines are also close between the two charges. On the line joining the two charges also, you're finding that the charge in this area is large. And look at this, how many lines are coming out of positive, you see? The same number of lines are entering into the negative. If there are 10 lines coming out of positive, 10 lines are entering the negative. And you're seeing that they start on a positive, end on a negative charge. Okay. But then here there are some lines which are not ending on a negative charge. What does that mean? Does it mean that they are stopping in air? Where are they going? They are going till they find their negative, which may be at infinity. Okay. Similarly here, field lines suddenly are showing here. It doesn't mean that they are suddenly abruptly starting here. They are coming from some negative source which may be at infinity. And then where is the electric field minimum in this picture? You're seeing that on the, I have to use a word here. If I draw a plane like this, if I draw a plane bisecting, I'll call it a median plane. If I draw a median plane bisecting this dipole, I find that here, I find that the field lines are far away from each other. Here it will be much more farther. So the field lines are far away here, so the field value is small. If I want to know what is the field at the point P2, if I want to know the direction, all I have to do is draw a tangent. So that gives me the direction. So this is the pictorial representation of how the electric field varies around a dipole. Then, what is the last picture we have? The last picture we have is a pair of point charges, both equal, two equal point charges. Let's say both are plus. Let's say both are plus. Now look at this. Both are plus. So you find that both are plus. So you find that same number of lines are radiating out, but then the lines cannot cut each other. They cannot cut each other. So they actually turn. They turn. Okay. And then you see they are not radial. They are radial only there in places where there is minimum interference. Like here and all you're finding it's radial. But here the fields are talking to each other in this region. So what is happening? They are turning to accommodate each other. And where is the field 0 here? The field will be 0 at the center. Here the field is 0. No lines are there. Field is 0. That's a null point. Okay. Now, ma'am, it's all right. You drew all this and showed us, but how exactly do they draw these things? Will be the next question that some of you will have. They just use the principle of superposition. The principle of superposition is all that is used. So I'll give you I'll take the last example that I've taken. What is the last example I've taken? 2 point charges. How will the field lines look for 2 point charges? Okay. So first what we'll do is, we will call one of the charges as A. We'll call one of them as A. We'll call the other as B. Okay? And let A be represented by blue arrows. Let the field of A be represented by blue arrows. So blue arrows means, and you're seeing that yes, they all seem to be radially out, all right. But I'm taking some random points. And at these random points, I'm just trying to show what the electric field will be. Okay. They will all be radially out, but then nearer the point A, the arrow will have larger length because the magnitude is large. Field is large, so larger length. And as we move away, I'm using small arrows. That is because the value of the electric field becomes smaller. That's what you do in the case of a vector. So you've done it. Now for charge B, also do the same exercise. For all the same points, you start drawing the electric field due to B. Let them all be represented by the green arrows. Okay. So now in the third picture, in the next picture, what you're doing is you're going to get the vector sum. You're going to get the vector sum at all of these points. Like for example, let me take this one, EA, or let me take some point like, what do I do here? All right, let me take this point for example, EA, EB. What will be the vector sum? The vector sum will be EA will be here, so therefore The vector sum is going to be this. Okay, so this is E net at this point. So like this, you can draw net for all of these points you can draw. So one example is what I have shown here. Imagine doing this for infinite number of points. Imagine using principle of superposition for infinite number of points. When you do it for infinite number of points, then you're going to be getting a continuous drawing. You're going to be getting a continuous drawing, and what you get is this. Is it clear? Like for example, you see here, I said null point. I said this is a null point. Let us look at this. Between A and B, I have two arrows which are equal and opposite. Okay, therefore, what will be the sum? The sum has to be 0. Sum has to be 0. So this is a null point. So just using the principle of superposition, but only thing that is done here is you are doing it for infinite number of points. So you end up getting not tiny arrows, you are ending up getting arrows which are curving, or you're getting field lines. Is that clear, guys? So you can actually guess, now that you know how the field lines are drawn, you can actually guess how the field line distribution should look. Okay, I'm going to just give you an exercise. How many of you are awake? 58 fellows. And I know some of you are writing your names and going away also. Okay, I am putting all of you on the screen. I am taking picture. I am doing that. Okay, so now, let me see. Shashank, are you there? Shashank? How do I draw the field lines for this example? You decide how many lines you want to draw. If I want to draw 4 lines from the 2 nanocoulomb, will it come out or go in?
Come out, ma'am.
Come out, okay. So they cannot cut here, so they will have to turn like this. So let us say I am going to draw 4. Okay. So from here, how many should I draw? From the 4 nanocoulomb? Yeah, moving inside, how many? Here I do 4, so here I should draw how many?
8.
8. Okay, it will be 8 of them coming in. And you have to take care to see that they are not cutting each other, and they should show the directions properly, and you should ensure that the ratio is also maintained. So by doing this, you may not get a null point exactly here. You may get a null point. So let us say I may have to slightly change this, and I may have to draw a null point. I may not get exactly at the center. I may get a point which is, let's say, closer to the +2. I may get something like this, but then they won't touch each other. Okay, so this is how you have to draw your field lines. Okay, so next is, so till now we talked about the charge becoming the charge or continuous charge distributions becoming the source of electric field. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to see what is going to happen to a charge when it is put in an external electric field. What is happening to a charge, a point charge, when you put it in an external electric field? I don't care about who created that electric field, what created that electric field. I know there is an electric field E. If I put a charge Q there, what will happen to that charge? That charge will experience a force F is equal to Q into E. Okay, so we can use this knowledge to work out a problem. So here you have 2 plates. I have 2 plates parallel and carrying equal and opposite charges. I have 2 plates carrying equal and opposite charges, and I have an oil drop. I have an oil drop of radius 2.76 micrometer. Density of the oil is 918 kilogram per meter cube. Okay, and I find that this oil drop is certainly going to have a mass. What will be the mass of the oil drop? How is mass related to volume and density? Density into volume. So density into 4 by 3 pi capital R cube. So I can get the mass. Okay, I can get the mass of the oil drop. And next what I do is, I know what is the mass of the oil drop. Okay, and I can actually calculate what it is. I can calculate what is the mass of my oil drop. Next, because of weight, because of gravity, what happens is this oil drop will try to come down. It will experience a gravitational force equal to mg. This drop will experience a gravitational force equal to mg. But then I don't want it to fall. I don't want it to fall. And I also know that it is going to carry a charge q. It's an ion, it's going to carry a charge q. It's ionized, it's going to carry a charge q. And I am going to use these two fellows, these two plates, and I am going to keep it balanced. I'm going to keep it balanced by applying an electrostatic force in the upward direction using these two plates. Using these two plates. Okay? You have to find out what will be Q, what will be Q, if you know that the electric field that you have applied using these two plates is 1.65 into 10 to the power of 6 Newton per coulomb. So what will be Fe? If Fe is the electrostatic force pushing it up, how is it related to charge and field? Fe is equal to charge of the drop into the field that you are applying. Right? This ion will be, this oil drop will be balanced if both these are going to be equal. Or I can say QE is going to be equal to mg. Or I get the Q. So the charge on the plates should be equal. The charge on the drop will be equal to Q equal to mg by E. What is my m? M is rho into 4 by 3 pi capital R cube. Then of course G divided by E. I can substitute for all this. Okay. When I substitute for all this, I'll be able to get what is my charge. I find that Q equal to 4.804 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb. And tell me what should be the sign of this charge. Will it be positive or negative? Look at the direction of the electric field. Electric field is in the downward direction. But electrostatic force is in the upward direction. When can that happen? When will force and field?
Charge is negative.
Right. When the charge is negative. So the charge has to be negative. Charge is negative. So now tell me how many extra electrons are there on this oil drop. Number of extra electrons on the drop. How will I get? Q divided by E. What is E? E is charge of 1 electron. What is the charge of 1 electron? What is the charge of 1 electron? Whew, I'm tired. What is the charge of 1 electron? 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19. Right, charge is quantized. So just put that. Just put that. So here you will write. So it is minus 4.804 divided into 10 to the power of minus 19 divided by 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19. Okay, you are getting approximately 3. That means 3 extra electrons are there sitting on the oil drop, and then because it is negatively charged, you are able to apply an electric field downwards, thereby giving an electrostatic force in the upward direction, which is balancing the gravitational force. Okay, so here is a problem which is talking about the effect of an external field on a charge. Now, this problem actually continues. It says the drop is exposed to radioactive source that emits electrons. So this drop is already having n equal to how much? N equal to 3. It's having. Now, this drop is exposed to radioactive source that emits electrons. So 2 more electrons strike the oil drop and get captured. So what is the total number of electrons here now? What will be the total number of electrons now? First it was 3. 2 more went and joined. So how many will be the total number of electrons here? N will be 5. 3 plus 2, 5. Now will it be balanced? Now will it be balanced? First it was balancing because 3 electrons experienced a force in the upward direction. Now there are 5 electrons. So which force will be greater? Fe or Fg? Which will be greater?
Fe.
Fe will be greater. Fe will be greater because it is 5 times 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19. That is your Q into E. Okay. Whereas here, electron's mass is very, very negligible. It is 10 to the power of minus 31 kg. Whereas the drop of your oil is 10 microgram. So micro, how much was that? It was radius is 10 to the power of micrometer. So you're going to get mass will be very small, all right, but it's not going to be 10 to the power of minus 3. Therefore, the mass can be taken as it is. Okay, mass can be taken as it is. Just because 2 more electrons went and sat on it, the mass of the oil drop will not increase. So that will be the same mg only. Okay, now what you have to do is you have to find out which force is larger. Or you can see that there is a net force in the upward direction because you yourself said Fe is going to be larger. So you have to find out F net. So F net will be equal to Fe plus vector Fg, which is going to be 5 into 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 into E. What is E? E is 1.65 into 10 to the power of 6. Okay. Then minus, I put a minus because this is in the downward, Fg is in the downward direction. So put mg there. Okay. And this is not going to be equal to 0. This is going to be equal to F net. F net can be written as the net force experienced by the oil drop, or I can write F is equal to m into A. I can write F is equal to m into A. Therefore, I can get my A. A equal to what? You can calculate. What is the acceleration of the oil drop? Will the acceleration of the oil drop be in the upward direction or downward direction?
Upward.
Upward direction. Can you not find this? Because mg already we have used in the previous page. In the previous page, we already used, we got mg. Mg is rho into 4 by 3 pi r cube g. So just use that only here also. Okay. And you get what is ma. Then divide by m, you get your A. A will be meter per second square. Okay, so this is how you actually, and this first part of it where the oil drop got balanced. Do you know that there is a famous experiment based on this in history? Which is that experiment?
Millikan's oil drop.
Very good. It's Millikan's oil drop experiment. So it's from Millikan's oil drop experiment that a very important result came out. Do any of you know what is that important result that came out of Millikan's oil drop experiment?
Specific charge.
What is that?
Specific charge.
Specific charge. Yes, he found E by M, and he also found that charges. He also found the charges, some gadda, don't talk. He also found that charge is quantized. They found that, the number of electrons, the charge of this drop, each time they were putting this radioactive exposure, they found that the charge of the electron was always changing in multiples of 1.6 into the power of minus 19. So from that they concluded that, okay, the charge of each electron has to be 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb. So that's how the quantization of charge happened. So that way, these are landmarks, two important things that came out of this particular experiment. One is quantization of charge and the next is your specific charge, E by M. Okay, so I will stop the lecture here. So next class, we should be able to finish this chapter. Please study, don't expect that you will study everything in the last minute. Kindly study, kindly download whatever is there, and please don't send me requests for the Gmail. You are not supposed to be using Gmail here. You're supposed to use your IFHE mail ID only. I will be, doing some cleaning exercise and all that, and I will be putting it on the on my drive, Google Drive, and you can use it. Any doubts? And tomorrow the lab will be at the usual time only. Today morning you must have received a mail, no? So the EG labs are going to take up the Tuesday and Thursday slots. So our lab remains as it is. Any news about this corona, guys? Anyone? What is the latest you are hearing?
Nothing, no.
Nothing.
Just
So,
new strain of corona is coming up.
Yeah, looks like there is a blackout of news. We are not able to hear anything.
Yes, ma'am.
It simply looks like, this entire year is going to go like this only. We also feel like that.
I think so, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Is there going to be any evening curfew or something?
ma'am?
Any curfew in the
No,
evening?
ma'am. In Telangana, nothing like that.
Nothing. Oh,
He
Telangana
clearly
seems-
announced that there will be no lockdown.
No lockdown. Lockdown, yes, should not be there. I
Yeah,
understand.
that's what curfew.
But at least this marketing crowd can be reduced in the evenings, no? Even that is not happening. Anyway, let's hope for the best. Your parents and grandparents are going for vaccination?
Ma'am, I think vaccines
Good
have
then, ma'am.
effect side.
Okay. Okay then, take care.
Okay, ma'am. Bye.